Morning. Thank you all for coming. And thank you in particular the Ziegert family who's here as well. To begin with some introductions of those who are standing up front, I'm Attorney Gulluni, Hamden District Attorney. To my right is Captain Chris Wilcox of the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit attached to the DA's office, Chief Eric Gillis from the Agawam Police Department, Lieutenant Ed McGovern from Agawam, Lieutenant Tom Fitzgerald from the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit, Trooper Noah Pack from the Mass State Police Detective Unit, Sergeant Brendan O'Toole, also from the Detective Unit of the State Police, and Detective Mark Fow from the Agawam Police Department. On April 15th, 1992, 24-year-old Lisa Ziegert, who taught at a local middle school, was abducted during the early evening hours of her night clerk shift at a car shop in Agawam, the site of her second job. She was reported missing to police the next morning on April 16th, 1992 by the store's day clerk, who arrived to find the store open with its lights on and Lisa's car parked where it had been seen the previous evening. The money in the store's register and Lisa's personal property, including her purse and school materials, were recovered from the card shop by police and appeared to be undisturbed. 4 days later, on April 19, 1992, Lisa's body was found abandoned after being sexually assaulted and killed. This was in a wooded area in Agawam just off Suffield Street, approximately 4 miles from the card shop. The scene was photographed and processed by personnel from the Massachusetts State Police, including its Crime Scene Services Section and Crime Laboratory, the Agawam Police Department, and the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Items documented at or near the location where Lisa's remains were seized have been maintained since then by law enforcement investigators. Throughout the subsequent police investigation into Lisa's disappearance and death, seized evidence has been reviewed, identified for forensic analysis, and subjected to testing procedures. With the passage of time, new or more refined methods of forensic testing have been employed. A single source male DNA profile from an unknown individual has been developed from various items seized from Lisa and the crime scene. That profile has been uploaded to the National DNA CODIS database, as well as each state's DNA database, without any results. From day one to present day, members of my staff and investigators continue to meet to discuss the case, including identifying new forensic testing procedures to identify Lisa's assailant from the available evidence. Over recent years, investigators have vetted and eliminated hundreds of persons of interest, many through DNA analysis, and followed thousands of leads. 2 months ago, in July 2016, I authorized evidence previously seized in this investigation to be analyzed by Parabon NanoLabs, a DNA technology company located in Virginia that specializes in what's called DNA phenotyping. DNA phenotyping is the process of predicting physical appearance and ancestry from unidentified DNA evidence. It employs revolutionary DNA analysis, built with funding from the United States Department of Defense, to produce a composite sketch from forensic case evidence. Although a first in Massachusetts, law enforcement agencies in other parts of the country are using Parabon's Snapshot DNA Phenotyping Service to narrow suspect lists and generate leads in criminal investigations. Just like a sketch artist uses information from an eyewitness to create an image, Parabon uses genetics as an eyewitness to produce its composite sketch. Using DNA evidence recovered in this case, Snapshot DNA Phenotyping produced trait predictions for the single source male DNA profile. Previously identified during this investigation, individual predictions were made for the assailant's ancestry, eye color, hair color, freckling, facial characteristics, all previously unknown traits to investigators. By combining these attributes of appearance, the Snapshot composite sketch, which is a facial 3D image based on these traits, was produced depicting what Lisa's assailant would have looked like at age 25 with a normal body mass index. Of course, DNA cannot predict body mass index or age. It is important to note that Snapshot composites are scientific approximations of appearance based on DNA and are not exact depictions of appearance. Things like age, weight, or personal choice, such as hair dye, facial hair, or hairstyle, cannot be captured by DNA analysis and may cause a variation in this individual's appearance. Due to the time that has passed since Lisa's murder, I also requested Parabon to produce an age progression composite sketch depicting what Lisa's assailant would look like at the age of 50 with a slightly higher BMI. Today, I am releasing the snapshot composite sketches as developed by Parabon to the public. This forensic testing has predicted that Lisa's assailant has fair to very fair complexion with some freckling, hazel or brown eyes, and brown or black hair. He has an ancestry that is most likely a mixture of northern and southern regions of Europe. These facial images represent a new and significant development in this investigation. The nature and character of the items tested, as well as their condition and location upon discovery, suggest this person was in the immediate crime scene at a time relevant to Lisa's sexual assault and killing. All evidence and leads previously developed in this case are now being evaluated in view of this forensic development. If you recognize these images, members of the public, or have any information relative to Lisa's disappearance and death, please contact what we've just created, the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit Ziegert tip line at the Hampden District Attorney's Office. That number is 413-333-9148, or the Agawam Police Department at 413-786-4768, or anonymously with text to tip at crimes 274-6377, beginning with the word solve. I have met with Lisa's family to advise them of the progress of this investigation. The technology we have put to use is at the leading edge of the industry. No expense, effort, or means has been or will be spared to bring the persons to justice who killed Lisa. We will never forget her, and members of the Unsolved Case Unit and the Massachusetts State Police detectives in my office, along with the Agawam Police Department, have never put this case down. For the first time in 24 years in this investigation, we have a face to this crime. Happy to take any questions.
Do you have any indication of a name or any further details beyond the appearance of this assailant?
We do not. As I mentioned, the DNA in this case has been run against every database known to us internationally, nationally, and has not produced a match. This new technology takes that DNA profile and produces a likeness of the person's face. However, it does not give us a name, of course. We're imploring the public to help us, based on these composites, to generate leads that will eventually lead to a name, lead to a suspect, lead to an arrest and a prosecution.
Somebody, does the composite, does it resemble anyone who was previously interviewed or as part of this case? Or?
I'm not going to comment on that. Investigators are just getting this information. Patrick, this is very fresh. This has come into my office in the last week. We scheduled a press conference in order to roll this out to the public, ask them for their assistance, and investigators are actively, really around the clock, using this information to the best of their ability.
Can you tell us what kind of evidence was examined through the DNA analysis to get this composite?
Ray, obviously this is an ongoing investigation. There are aspects of the investigation due to the maintenance of the integrity of the case and any prosecution that will come. So there are details I will not speak of, but this was a DNA profile, a single source male DNA profile, which in some cases is fairly rare. That was given to Parabon in order to produce this composite.
Is this the first time this technology has been used in Massachusetts, to your knowledge?
To our knowledge, it is. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's been used by federal law enforcement agencies. It's used by the Department of Defense. It's also been used by some localities across the country. Dan, you can see in the material provided, there's some links to some information that shows how this has been used. This has been developed in just the last couple of years and it's been reached a level of reliability where it is now being used by law enforcement agencies, but it's really cutting edge.
How accurate is it, or how confident are you in this composite?
Needless to say, Ryan, we're confident that this is a likeness of the person. The accuracy of the details, some of the non-genetic factors I mentioned, facial hair, hair color, dyed hair color, I should say, hair color here is determined by the DNA. But things that are non-genetic make this subject to some variance. But this technology has been vetted thousands of times. As I said, the federal government uses it in criminal investigations through the Department of Defense. So we're confident that this is reliable information and obviously presenting to the public as such.
When you say the single source, I just want to make sure I understand. So no other source of male DNA was discovered at the site?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And this sample is not mixed, it's a single source. It's a clean sample, so to speak.
When was that single source entered into the databases? How long ago was that done?
Originally, at the time at which DNA databases got their start. This case was in 1992, really at the advent of DNA, the beginning stages of DNA, and as it became applicable to criminal cases. But over those last 24 years, Paul, we've put it into every database. It's run constantly, so it's really sort of an everyday occurrence.
So, and 0 hits in that time on those databases.
Is it rare that someone would commit that violent of a crime and not be in the DNA database 20-something years later?
You know, I'm not going to engage in criminal psychology, but it's been frustrating.
Any other questions?
I do know that the Ziegert family is willing to take a question or two. Mr. and Mrs. Ziegert. Yes, sir.
Do you know of any cases where this technology has been used to solve a crime that's been open for this period of time?
Yeah, I don't know the conclusions, but as I mentioned on, as a matter of fact, Parabon's website, there's a number of high-profile cases in which this has been used, where there is a DNA sample but no suspect. I know it's been used in Colorado, again, by the federal government. I'm not sure whether it's obviously this is not something that is going to be used as evidence. It's used in the criminal investigation stage to generate leads, to exclude suspects. This is going to be used by investigators, I think, to great effect in the weeks and months to come as they take another view of the case in light of this forensic development.
This case has gone on unsolved for so many years now, 24 years. Based on this new profile, this new DNA evidence, how confident are you that we will find Lisa Ziegert's killer based on this profile?
All I can say, Ray, is I hope and pray that this brings someone to justice and brings some closure and a measure of peace to the Ziegert family who's dealt with this for so long. Lisa's memory is on our minds constantly, so we're hoping. Mr. and Mrs. Zeger are here. They've been a steadfast presence. They've been patient with me through this process, and I admire their strength. They're willing to take some questions from members of the media. Mr. and Mrs. Zeger?
Dee, would you like to give us your thoughts on what you've seen today and discovered?
Well, let's just say that we are totally impressed and overwhelmed with the fact that this is available. As the DA said, when Lisa was killed, the DNA was in its infancy. I mean, the way they were able to take it, they were able to come up with a profile on it, but the markers and things that they are able to do now are unbelievable. We're so hopeful that this is going to bring for Lisa the justice that she feels they deserve. And we're very grateful and thankful that Lisa's case has never, ever been closed. That's something we get all the time. Oh, they're reopening the case. No, it was never, ever closed. They worked on it from Agawam Police Department right up to the DA's office, constantly the past 24 and a half years. It has never been closed, and we are grateful and thankful for that and the support that we've received from the news media and from the community.
Mrs. Zeger, is that anyone that rings a bell to you?
I tell you, Ryan, it's one of those things that when you see it, I had someone say to me, you finally, after 24 and a half years, have a type of a face that you can look at and say, I don't really like to say I hate anyone, but yeah, it's there. I think it's kind of a shock. I feel the same way. I've got to sit, got to study it, just seeing it. It's going to take some time. And also, as the DA said, this is not a photograph. So its characteristics and its coloring, and it's going back 24 and a half years. So I'm hoping that something is going to pop, and I'm sure that there could be something you say, oh, it kind of resembles so-and-so. And that doesn't mean that that's who it is. It just means that the ethnicity is there, and we're hopeful. We're very, very, very hopeful and grateful.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you all.